This is Capsule on liveandlimbo.com. My name is Sean Chin.
And I am Andreas Babilakis. This is an audio experience where we take you on an adventure into music, film, and pop culture.
This week, we have an awesome guest today, Matt Klopot. He is a concert photographer at Live and Limbo. How's it going, man?
Hey, how are you guys?
I'm good.
Good, thank you.
How's life?
Not too bad. Just finished editing a set that I sent over to you guys to post online. So.
That's correct. So if you go to liveandlimbo.com right now, you can see the first of it, the big one, Headley, at Air Canada Centre. And this was a huge event because as a Canadian band, we've all seen Headley, like them or not, growing throughout our lives. For me, it was in high school, and I've seen them once in concert and then twice by accident after that. Not that, well, I appreciate their music. I like what they're doing. They're Canadian, so that's good. And finally getting to see them headline a huge show at the Air Canada Centre, the biggest venue in Toronto and probably all of Canada. That's a pretty significant deal.
Absolutely.
And you were there to capture it all.
I was.
So what was that experience like?
It was interesting, actually. I loved shooting the Air Canada Centre. It's huge. The lights are usually pretty good. And it's usually a fun time. It's usually a band that isn't going to be super boring. If they've risen to the ranks of the Air Canada Centre, they're not exactly going to be, just standing there playing guitars. But it was actually kind of a challenge. There was this catwalk down the middle of the stage, and we weren't allowed around the catwalk. So basically, whenever Jacob, the singer, would go into the catwalk, all we would get is his back. So that was a challenge. And the pit was really tight. There was a lot of gearboxes and speakers, so we were really, really tight in there. But I think I got some good stuff, so that's kind of all I go for.
Yeah, you have to check out these photos. Like you got you froze a moment in time of Jacob just right in the air. That's pretty sweet.
That was, I always try for the jump shots. They're the toughest thing to kind of get because you want to get it in focus. You want to get the expression right. You want to get everything perfect. And I was happy with that one. I've been doing this long enough. I know when someone's about to jump. And he kind of had that look, and he had his feet planted in a certain way, and I was like, I think he's going to do it. So I prepped myself. I got my focus, and I just waited, and he did it, and I got it. And I was really happy with that.
So you said there's a catwalk. So how did you guys choose? Did you get to choose what side you were on of the catwalk, or was everyone?
Yeah, they kind of. It was Live Nation's awesome. They're pretty good with kind of letting us choose by ourselves. They don't split us down the middle and go, you guys are here, you guys are there. I have a friend who shot them in Halifax. Hey, Alan. Who kind of gave me a few pointers and told me that's the side to be on. I was on stage right because the singer is left-handed. I wouldn't get his fist in the shot when he's singing. So that was kind of what I was going for. And also from what my friend Alan said, that's the side he was going to do his big jump on. So that's where I went. I don't usually do a lot of research before a show, but that was one thing. I knew he does a lot of jumps. I knew there was that one epic jump he's supposed to do every show. So that's one thing I did ask Alan about and kind of said hey, where's this happen? Give me, 2 seconds of advice where I should be. Because with the catwalk there, you don't get the full pit. You kind of have to choose your side and you're stuck there. So I want to make sure it wasn't I pick one side and, he does a face melting solo and hops up on something on the other side. I want to kind of make sure I was in a vantage point.
That's awesome. You're talking about Alan Zilkowski, right?
Yes.
He's awesome. Yes.
He is the best. I love him.
So I want to know this. How did Jacob land? What did he land on? Did he how was he okay after that? It looks
he landed on a bass speaker enclosure, like a sub, I guess. And it was interesting because I've seen photos from different shows on this tour, and those speakers aren't at every one. I don't know how he kind of chooses what he's going to land on, but he did spend a lot of time jumping, so I'm pretty sure he's a pro at it by now.
Yeah.
He obviously kind of assessed the situation beforehand, maybe during sound check or something, and said all right, if I jump here and I land here, I'm good. So
that's awesome. And
so he does a parkour thing during the show then.
Oh, absolutely. His feet weren't on the ground very much, so.
He's like David Blaine.
Yeah.
So how did you get a little bit about you then? So how did you get into concert photography?
I started about 3 years ago. I've always kind of like I work in television. That's my day gig. So I've always been very visual. I like the visual medium, and I've always wanted DSLR. And I was like, maybe I'll buy one sometime. Who knows? And then it just worked out that there was a great deal on one at my mom's work, and she bought it for me. And it was a little Rebel. I still have it somewhere. But I had a friend who was a professional photographer, and she was awesome. We would hang out, and she would kind of give me homework, just to like get me going with it, because she knows I'm not the most motivated person in the world. So it was different homework. And then one day she was like, "Well, what do you want to shoot?" And I've been a musician since I was about 7. So I was like, "Oh, music photography is like so cool. It looks like fun, whatever." And she was like, "All right, well, we're gonna hang out again on Saturday. Before Saturday, go shoot a show." So I posted an ad on Craigslist. And some band was like, "Hey, we're playing at this hole in the wall on Bloor Street. You want to come shoot us?" And I'm sure. And I loved it. It was chaotic. There wasn't research. There wasn't, a sort of planned atmosphere. It was like, they're going to do what they do, and I just have to capture it. And I liked that a lot. And from there, it was just a matter of, once I got the bug, I found a bunch of other bands on Craigslist who wanted me to shoot them. I moved up from there, and then as I got better and as my photos got a little more exposure, a couple publications were like, "Hey, we like your stuff. Do you want to shoot this show for us?" And I've been shooting only for publications for about 2.5 years now. So.
Oh wow. So obviously everything's in motion, and you have to kind of time everything right. So, 2 things. First of all, are you into still photography at all, where things kind of are as they are, and you try and work your way around them and make them as aesthetically pleasing as possible, or are you mostly into things that are just going chaotic, and you try to make a sense of it all?
I've kind of tried it all a little bit. I like the idea of like portraits and things like that. The downside is I'm incredibly shy. So
I don't believe that.
I am. No one believes me when I tell them that, but I am really shy, especially with strangers. So when I have to I shoot headshots occasionally, and so I have someone in my studio, and I'm like, I can't. It's hard for me to pose them or talk to them. I just get really kind of clam up on that. And that's where I like concerts a lot, because there's no interaction. There's no, I don't have to tell them what to do. They just do what they do. And with that, I do also like street photography sometimes. I'm not as good as it as I am concerts. I like street stuff, but I'm not like that quick capture, great shot kind of guy.
Right.
I shot one wedding, which was terrible. It was the worst.
Nobody jumps at weddings, right?
No. Actually, funny story. One of the bridesmaids was dancing. No, one of the flower girls was dancing, and she fell into the pool.
Oh.
And it was the best part of the entire wedding.
And you got that on camera?
I didn't.
Oh.
I was so sad. But it made the horrible day much better. But I think I've tried it all, and I want to try more. Like, I definitely am not like I bill myself as a concert photographer or music photographer, but I mean, my website has a people section, and different landscape stuff, and I've shot. I have a rooftop patio, so I've shot up there. There's like the city and things like that. But I think when it comes down to it, like my place is in a photo pit.
The flower girl part actually is going to lead me to what else I wanted to ask, and we'll include the link to your website, obviously, in the show notes. So with so many things happening at once, seeing as you're more into like
action,
capturing things that are in motion, with so many things going on at once, especially at concerts when there are so many people on stage, or weddings where so many people are presumably drunk, how do you? There's obviously moments where you'll be trying to capture one thing, like, okay, let's try and get this guitar solo, and then the drummer will do some crazy trick and you'll have missed it. How do you capture pretty much as you can? Is it difficult to try and have to follow one thing?
How do you prioritize?
It is difficult. It's something that it took some time to come to terms with. Especially, I mean, I'm a music photographer. So many of my friends are like, we get home from the same show and we all post some photos on Facebook. And once the sets go live, I see everything. And I go, oh, I wish I'd gotten that. Or I wish, I wish I wasn't looking at the drummer when the bass player did this. It's something you got to come to terms with. Like, there are upwards of, 5, 6 people on stage, and you kind of got to just pick your battles and hope for the best. I mean, I don't spend the whole time with the camera on my eye. I do try and keep both my eyes looking around and seeing what's going on. I've missed amazing things. I know that. At Headley, actually, I went to switch lenses, and obviously I'm looking down at my bag to do the lens switch. And as soon as I look up and I have a telephoto on, Jacob is literally about 1.5 feet away from me.
Aw.
And I was like, I'm going to get his nostril if I try to shoot this. So I just kind of moved back and let people with their wides get that shot because I knew I wasn't going to get it where I was. And I mean, I come home with a couple hundred shots from a show and I need to deliver 12, 15. So I think realizing that, just give the best 12, 15, like you're not going to get everything. You're not going to be, you're not going to be the one guy that got every jump. So it takes some time to get used to that and to come to terms with the fact that, like, I'm not going to get everything and I'm not going to be able to, get gold at every show. Like, that's, once you get to that phase, you're like, all right, I just need to do my best. I just need to, hopefully get a shot or two. I knew Jacob jumps around a lot, so I would have been disappointed if I didn't get any jumps at all. Luckily, I got 2 or 3 that I narrowed down to the best one to submit. But, I think it's just, it's one of those things where you have to go in with the whole, hopefully it works out, but I'm not going to get everything.
That's a good way to look at it, yeah. You have to pick your battles. You're just one person, right? And there's multiple people there.
Exactly.
I think there's one cool thing with this show was that Headley is one genre of music, and they chose 2 other musical acts that were completely different. One was Classified, who is a rapper, and who's also the co-host of the Junos Tomorrow. And then Ubiquitous Energy Seeker, who we've had on the show before and are also very crazy on stage. So actually, this is interesting because we're going to talk about a set that's not even live on the site yet. But I'm looking at the USS photos you took, and what do you think about product placement? Because this is cool. Whenever there's a DJ or something, there'll always be a MacBook on stage. And I'm looking at, I think it's shot 7 of your USS one with Jay Parsons, and his MacBook is right there. I think that's such a perfect product placement photo, and probably Apple should get that.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think the whole DJ game has given Apple a ton of free publicity, but in the same respect that guitar players have given Gibson and Fender the same kind of
right.
So it is a funny thing. I'm like, oh, there's a MacBook. You always see it on the stage, and it is kind of like advertising. Like, I used to work for Apple, and I'd have a lot of kids coming in and going like, oh, I want to be a DJ, so I need the MacBook. And it's, I mean, obviously I'm a Mac guy. I sold them to them, but like, it's just like, it's become a kind of, status symbol, like the MacBook. Yeah. Like no one's up on stage with like a Toshiba or something.
Right.
Whereas like Marshall is kind of like the amp. Like there's plenty of amazing guitar amps up there, but everyone knows what a Marshall looks like on stage, and that's kind of the the go-to look. Even like in advertising, when they have some random person holding a guitar for an ad, there's a Marshall there because that's what rock and roll looks like. So I see that a lot where it's like you get the MacBook, and I've seen where there's 3 or 4 MacBooks on a on a DJ platform, and Apple's got to love that. That's for sure.
I think it's, well, before you get in there, Andreas, one thing I think that's awesome is that if you can get a celebrity to use your product without you having to pay them, and it's like just something that's default, that's the best thing anyone that makes a product can hope for. It's not like Samsung paying off them and making them have like a Samsung Chromebook or whatever.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Exactly. I guess you could tell when I'm trying to chime in now because I take a deep breath.
Yeah.
Well, I first of all, I want to say that I appreciate the fact that you brought up guitar models and amp models or manufacturers rather, because a lot of people will see Apple as just I guess because people are very very close to whatever computers they use. So they all use Windows or a Linux or Mac. And obviously, they see the negativity in seeing the Apple logo on stage, that it's commercialism, this and that. But obviously, it's been around since like the 60s, because, or even before then, because of all the guitar manufacturers and the like that have been fighting for that status symbol for that long. So I appreciate that you actually notice that Apple's obviously not the first brand to be on stage. But having said that, when something like the Apple logo will appear in your shot, or the Marshall amp with its cursive writing will appear in your shot, does it feel like sometimes that it's sometimes their signature shot apart from yours, because it's like their name is in your shot, so it's technically theirs? Or does it not affect your shot at all and it still feels like it's entirely yours?
Yeah, it's not something I think about too much. I mean, I've when I shot Weezer for Live in Limbo a couple weeks ago.
No, I think it was a few months.
Was it really?
A month,
Wow.
yeah.
Must be that long.
But it was a Microsoft event, and there was Microsoft logos everywhere, and there was, like the whole thing was a Microsoft thing. And at that point, some of my photos felt a little corporate-y, which isn't my style. But it's not something I'm not, raging against the machine by any stretch. But it is something I do occasionally notice on stage, where it's like, I like when I see an amp or a guitar or a drum set or something that isn't of the most mainstream. Like I'm a drummer myself, and I play U-Drum, which is a company out of Burlington, and they do all handmade custom drums. There's no two drums that are the same.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you pick the colors, the style, the sizes, and they build you a completely custom kit. And that I like, is because it's really unique, and I love my kit. And whenever I get to see, there's U-Drum, there's SJC, there's a ton of companies that do that, and I like seeing those on stage, because it's not just a wine red Yamaha custom kit. It's an actually custom device. And I've seen Cancer Bats, their guitar player, actually built his own guitar recently, and like that's the kind of thing that's cool for an image, because it's not the black Fender Telecaster with the white pickguard that I have in hundreds of photos already.
Right.
But beyond that, I think, I'm just there to capture what's there. And if there's a Marshall amp and a Gibson SG and, a Pearl drum set, like that's just what's on the stage. I mean, if someone was waving a Microsoft flag the whole time, I'd probably try and avoid that shot a little bit. But beyond that, I mean, it's the equipment they use. I mean, if you took a picture of me while shooting, you'd see, a Canon logo on my gear.
Right.
But that's not an advertisement for Canon.
Exactly. It's just because that image, or the logo rather, hasn't been burned into our retinas, that we dismiss it a little bit more, right?
Yeah.
A bit off topic, since you're talking about music and you're a drum player. What kind of music do you play then?
It kind of ranges. Mostly like heavy rock. I've done some like screamo stuff, some post-hardcore. I just like to hit hard. I like heavy beats. I'm not so much into the punk side of like, let's do it as fast as possible.
Right.
I like when, a breakdown can go a little slower and things like that, but mostly just like heavy stuff. It's nice to be able to hit hard and, have a nice groove as well. So I don't like where it's just straight up, like where the metal is just like 4/4 time, like just quick,
Yeah.
Don't you like emo music too?
I do. I love emo music. Sean likes bugging with that. I have the musical taste occasionally of a 14-year-old girl, which I don't know. I've never understood. I also
how did that come about?
I've always kind of dug it. Like I remember being, like, if you put on the first Taking Back Sunday album, I can just feel like I'm getting my G2 license and driving around Brampton. Like I listened to that album a million times while driving, and like The Used and bands like that were just my adolescence. Like I think my group of friends when I was in high school helped that a lot. Like that's when I was trying to figure out my own musical taste. Like when it became like, hey, there's more than Sum 41 and Blink-182 out there. There's a lot of my friends were into more of the emo stuff, and so I listened to a lot of that, and I listened to a lot of like Finger 11, which got me into like heavier music. And but yeah, I do like a lot of the emo stuff. It's fun. It's poppy, but there's usually some pretty good musicianship in there, which I like. I really like a good guitar line. I also play guitar, so
Yeah.
I listen to a lot of the emo as well.
What are the heavier bands that you're into then?
Um, I mean, who I love, Glassjaw is probably my favorite band of all time. Their stuff's phenomenal. If you don't know who Glassjaw is, definitely check
Oh,
them
I know
out.
Glassjaw.
Um, I love Finger Eleven. Um, what else have I listened to lately?
You like I don't know.
Yeah, you don't
Trying to
listen
think.
to like the extreme metal kind of stuff you were saying, right?
Like
Not
Norwegian death metal?
not so much. I find it's technical. It's very technical, but it doesn't have a lot of groove to it. I think as a drummer, like I learned playing like jazz.
Yeah.
That's how you learn drums is 'cause you got to learn how to play inside and outside of the pocket. But like Killswitch Engage are one of the best bands I've ever heard. Like their musicianship is phenomenal. Um, and Howard, who just left Killswitch
Yeah.
due to health reasons, his new band, whose name escapes me, um, is I just heard their first single and it's amazing. I'm so excited to hopefully get to shoot them, but definitely get to hear the whole
Are
stuff.
they as
Hopefully.
hardcore as Killswitch?
They are. They're actually more. They're more of like the technical metal and less of the groove than Killswitch was.
Then how did he leave
I,
for health reasons?
he had his diabetes was acting up, but I think the touring schedule
Oh.
was really hard on that. So I think the plan with the new band is to not be the kind of band that tours for 8 months out of the year, and
Yeah.
I think he wants to take it a little easier, but still play music because obviously he's an amazing vocalist, and it'd be a shame to lose that.
Yeah, for sure. I'm pretty picky with my metal as well. I mean, I can't just have the. What I came to realize because I grew up as a metalhead is you grew up in like the emo post-hardcore kind of scene. Um, what I learned is that every genre of music will have its substandard, basic yet most popular artists, and
Oh
then
yeah,
you'll have like the stuff that's harder to find, but it's something truly special. And I think metal's the same way. Um, I don't know if it's the same kind of stuff that you listen to, but you know La Dispute, the band.
sorry,
Loud
You know the band
dispute.
La Dispute.
heard the name.
You should check out their newest album. I think you'd like it a
Okay,
lot.
sweet.
Yep, and whoever hasn't on Live in Limbo, I'm not a big fan of the band, but the newest album is pretty damn special. So give that a listen.
We have someone covering that as well, Alyssa Miller, so that would be cool.
Oh, their
Wait.
concert?
Yeah.
Cool.
She's
There we go.
she's a great photographer, so I'm looking forward to seeing those photos.
Oh, you've met her? Okay, that's good.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And we're all at Live in Limbo because number one, we love music, so
Yeah.
that's cool. And so, back to the Headley show. Did
Yes.
you listen to any of these three bands before? Are you familiar with them?
I'm definitely familiar with them. I know Headley. I've heard them. I've shot them before. Actually, I shot them in the winter for the Much Music Big Jingle concert.
That's right.
But I mean, that was soundboard, and it was no fun. But Headley, I know because they're everywhere. I used to work at Much Music, so
Oh wow.
yeah. I've heard all of Headley's music over the years. Actually, before even Headley, my parents were huge into like Canadian Idol and stuff like that. So back when I was living at home, whatever years ago that was, I would hear him, Jacob, because I think he came in like second on Canadian Idol or something.
That's right. Yeah.
And that's what kind of got them going, the career. But yeah, I mean, Classified I've known forever. I can't say I own a Classified album, but I dig it. Like it's fun stuff. It's cool. It's it's hip hop. It's rap without the bitches, the hoes, and the bling, which I can appreciate. But yeah, and USS, I've seen them before live. Like they opened for somebody else I'd seen. They're not really on my radar. They put on a fun show, but they're not really my forte. But they were fun. They're fun to shoot. The catwalk definitely made that an interesting shoot, just because they're on the very front of the stage and spread out.
Yeah.
So it wasn't the most it wasn't the best position to be in, but no, it was. All of the bands are fun, which I think is the theme. Like because what Sean said, they're very different bands, but they're not serious in the sense that they like to have a good time, and they definitely make that a priority.
Yeah.
Do you
And
think
that's something I really dig.
do you think the audience dig the whole different bands thing?
I think so. I mean, a Headley fan, if I had to be, put it into a demographic, I would say 15-year-old female would probably be what it would be.
Yep.
And I think Classified can definitely, attain that audience, and his stuff's fun. I mean, he's not being derogatory, he's not being offensive, and he's definitely got chops, so that's fun to listen to. And USS, like, they just had a blast on stage. Like, you could just tell that they loved every minute of being there. And I think that's the kind of energy that the 15-year-old girl audience really likes.
Yeah.
When I shot the big jingle for Much Music in the winter, it was the same demographic. And the big takeaway from that show is that everything was fun. Everything was, let's scream at the top of our lungs for this. Let's scream, it was very much the let's have a good time vibe. And I think that's Headley to a T. I mean, I've never seen a Headley video that wasn't hilarious or, them goofing around. And I think that's what that concert was. And I think that's what the audience likes.
That's awesome. I think it's interesting because USS, they're always crazy on stage, but they only gave them a very short set time. I think it was like 25 minutes. So
it was a really short set, yeah.
They didn't get, I don't think they probably got a chance to hit into full gear, but yeah.
No, they definitely did. And also because they were kind of working on the front of the stage, because all the Headley gear was set up at the back, they didn't have a lot of room to move around. So they couldn't really go as wild as I've seen them in the past, but they definitely made the most of it. You couldn't tell they weren't enjoying themselves if they weren't. And that's, I think that's the biggest thing when you're playing live is, regardless of anything that's happening, regardless of if you're stuck in a, on a crappy stage, like it's the, have fun and make sure the audience is enjoying themselves is what it comes down to.
Yeah, for sure. Speaking of enjoying yourselves, I'm sure now at this point, photographers like you and Sean and the like, because you're so used to it, can know how to enjoy a concert because you've done it so many times before, and you'll know how to multitask, like paying attention to the show while doing your business side of it. But at first, did getting into concert photography not necessarily ruin, but did it put a damper on a lot of shows because you were busy focusing on what shots to get, what equipment to use, how to switch your lenses? Or was it never a big problem that you couldn't focus and enjoy a concert fully because you were busy taking photographs?
Oh, no, absolutely. It's definitely, it's a give and take. I mean, I wear earplugs, so
Me
right
too.
off the bat,
I tell all the photographers they need to wear earplugs.
everyone needs to wear earplugs. You're about 3 inches away from a speaker. You really need to wear earplugs. But, right away with the earplugs in, my ability to hear the music for what it is dampened. And the fact that, I am running around and I am trying to focus on things, I don't get to hear the music as well. But for me, there's some bands that come through town, and Sean knows this because I bug him for specific bands that I really want to shoot because I love them. But for the most part, when I choose what I want to shoot for the month, it has less to do with the bands I really like and more about the exposure of the band and
Right.
what that's going to look like on my portfolio and what that's going to look like in like internet views. Like people ask me all the time the same question: who would you like to shoot the most? And the answer is Justin Bieber. I hate his music. If you locked me in a room with him for a couple hours, I would enjoy myself. But I would love to shoot his music because, I mean, once I throw that on my website, that's, thousands and thousands of views. And that's what I shoot for. I mean, I have a full-time job. Like, music photography isn't my, way of making an income. So I shoot for views. I shoot for gratification. I like when someone, goes, "Fuck, that's a great shot."
Yeah.
And that's what I do it for. And, as much as some of the bands I really like, would be amazing to see live, they might not get me that, like when I shot Rush, I got a couple hundred views on it. But, when I shot, the first time I shot Headley, I got, a couple thousand views. And, when I shoot bands that of that genre of the, tween wave or whatever they call it, I get a ton more views. And that's kind of what I aim for, more so than I love this band, I want to see them live. Because really, I don't get to enjoy the show as much as someone 3 feet behind me in a chair or in the audience does. Because I'm
Right.
focusing more on, oh, every time they go into a chorus, the guitar player does a hair flip. I'm going to wait till the next chorus and get that hair flip. I kind of, I'm focusing more on the photos and the music.
Yeah, I'll say that. I'll jump in there too. When I'm shooting a show, I rarely remember the songs that they're playing. Like, I'll zone out because I have a job to do, and that's getting the shot. What earplugs do you use?
Actually, I found the ones I love the most I get them from Shoppers Drug Mart. They're $7, and they're called plane phones. They're specifically designed for airplane travel.
Oh yeah.
So they don't necessarily dampen the music too much. It's the pressure that they dampen.
Okay, well, I'll tell you to try out this brand that I use called Modoch.
Okay.
And it's specifically made for people like us in the concert photography thing. So it will only lower, I forgot what they call it. They lower it, but you can still hear everything crystal clear.
Nice.
Well, that's the whole point of earphones, or earbuds rather, not earphones.
No, but it's not like the big orange ones that look goofy. It's not like that. That totally kills the sound.
When I went to My Bloody Valentine, actually, because they pretty much, it's not like you have to wear earbuds, but they highly suggest it because it's possibly, if not the loudest band in history.
Oh, they recommend it?
Not only that, they give them out. That's the thing. Wow. So I went to Shoppers Drug Mart. I got those big orange ones. I was like, okay, I'm fully prepared. They actually had these specific little yellow ones that were perfectly shaped. So yeah, obviously there are some better ones for better environments. But I want to reflect on something that Matt was saying a bit before. Like, Sean and I have like our own jobs as well. Like, this isn't our life yet. It is in a sense, but it's not like how we make our primary form of income. And obviously we're about getting the views and getting the exposure as well. But at the same time, it's nice because we get we drive on passion. We don't drive on money just yet. But so we've got the same kind of mindset. Who would get us the biggest exposure? Because obviously, if we try for all the musicians that we adore the most, it'd be pretty difficult to try and get them on the show and everything, right? Having said that, and you've obviously said that you would want to shoot Justin Bieber, I guess in more ways than one, but I guess you can find a lot of appreciation then in musicians that you've had to take photographs of that you haven't actually liked. First of all, were there any notable examples of musicians that you really didn't like that you had to work at the shows that you had to work at? And secondly, can you find something to admire within working because you aren't concentrating solely on the music, but you're concentrating on the actual
person?
Not even just a person, but it's almost like there's a pattern or like a sequence to these kinds of shows that you're shooting, because like you said, they do hair flips at specific times, they do this, they do that. So it's like you're appreciating the show in a whole different sense. So does that get you by on musicians that you don't particularly like?
Answer the first question first.
Yeah. Sorry.
What was the first question again?
Oh my God. Andreas, this is your fault.
Examples
of bands that I didn't necessarily like but appreciated shooting?
Yeah.
Yes. There's definitely been a bunch. I mean, I've shot upwards of about 200 now, so I can't remember them all offhand. But I think they're called Blood on the Dance Floor.
Oh Lord. Okay, yeah.
They were.
When was that?
That was Warped Tour 2 years ago.
That was not for Live in Limbo.
No, it was not.
Okay.
That was for an unnamed publication I no longer shoot for. But they were kind of a joke, and what made them even weirder was it was a weird, amazing day, because in the middle of their set, the skies opened up and it was just torrential downpour, and then they had to evacuate everything. So they sent all the people to the amphitheater, and I had befriended one of the roadies earlier in the day, and he was like, "Yo, you dude, come with me," and he brought me into this trailer where all the roadies and like 4 of the bands were just hanging out for like an hour while the rain was in. We were just chatting and having fun. And they were really weird people, the guys from Blood on the Dance Floor.
Weird in what way?
They were just like super, super awkward. but like
Examples. I need examples.
oh geez, it was
Oh, they
years.
look weird as hell.
They look weird as hell. But like the roadies were just like the nicest guys ever. Like they were asking me about like Degrassi because one of the roadies had brought a box set of the original Degrassi series. So it just kept getting passed around to all the roadies on the tour. And they were like, "Is Degrassi near here? Could we go to Degrassi?" Which was amazing. But and then the band was kind of like off in this corner by themselves, like as if like they were like too good to hang out with us. But then they were just like really awkward. Like if anyone talked to them, it was just very strange. But then when they went back on stage, they had some cool, like at one point the singer put a metal plate like down his pants kind of, and then someone else used a grinder to like shoot sparks. It was interesting. It got some cool shots. But they were one of those bands that I was like, I wouldn't go near you guys in the Temple Bowl if I didn't have a camera in front of me. There's been some bands that I've gotten a new appreciation of musically that I didn't really have any interest in before. Tragically Hip is one of them. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
I'm Canadian. I know who they are. I've heard some of their songs, but just not in my wheelhouse at all. I shot them at the Air Canada Centre, and they put on a hell of a show. And I was like, this is fun. Like they were really enjoying themselves, and like the music was awesome, and I was really enjoying it. I haven't since become a super fan by any stretch, but I had a new appreciation. And Great Big Sea, where
Yes.
that was another band, which I think was my first Live in Limbo shoot.
I think so, yes.
That was another band, and I'm like, well, I knew who they are because I'm Canadian. But beyond that, like, why do I care about these guys? And it was just so fun. Like they were just having a blast. And I was like, if I didn't have a camera, I'd probably be like jigging around or something. But,
Exactly.
it was fun. And I was like, these guys rock. Like they legitimately rock. And I gave them some credit for that.
That's awesome, man.
Absolutely.
Thanks for being with us today. Where can all of our listeners find you, Matt?
Okay, so my website is mattklopot.com. That's MATTKLOPOT.com. My Instagram is @MattKlopot. My Twitter is @MattKlopot. And my Tumblr is mattklopot.tumblr.com. And on Facebook, if you'd like to add me, I'm Matt Jubaka Klopot.
That's right.
Sorry, what's your name again?
Say it again.
On Facebook?
No, I was just kidding.
Chewbacca.
Oh.
Just everything's linked to your actual full name.
Yes. Well, years ago, I used to be Anabyte Photography because everyone
Oh.
starts out with a name and not themselves.
Right.
And when I got rid of that, everything just became Matt Klopot. So all my accounts that were at Anabyte just became Matt Klopot.
I understand entirely. I used to be Who Cares Reviews, and I kind of wish I like that name still. I may continue with it, but I don't know. Being
It's a pen name.
being known by name on Live and Live was pretty cool too.
Yeah, because that's the thing, because I wasn't shooting, like I wasn't a company. So all my work was being published as Matt Klopot, and there was no link between that and like my website or that and my Twitter or anything like that. So I kind of just abandoned it all and went with Matt Klopot.
All right.
Exactly.
And we'll end off the show right there. You can find myself on Twitter @Sean Chin. You can follow the show on Twitter as well @Live in Limbo. Use the hashtag Capsule Podcast to join in on the conversation. Where can they find you, Andreas?
Well, they can find me by my actual name, Andreas Babs, on Twitter.
That's awesome. And of course, you can find the show notes on liveinlimbo.com/capsule. Take care.